Hi guys, and welcome to Tactic Apps. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to create a toggle button using control templates, which is an easier approach. And secondly, I'm going to show you guys how to create a user control library so that you can use your classes in other projects, as well as add them to the toolbox so that it's easy for you to just drag and drop. All right, let's cut to the chase. I have a class here called toggle class. It's actually just a project name, and I'll go and add in an item. So under WPF, we have user control and we have custom control. So we're going to click on our custom control template there and just give it a name. I'll give my toggle as the name. Okay, so the class has been added. So as you can see, we have some commented stuff here. It's called summary. You can read it if you want. Just shows you how to use your user control class. Now, Visual Studio has also generated a folder called themes, and in our folder we have a file named generic, and in our generic file it's just simply a resource dictionary, and this resource dictionary contains a style. Now this style defines the appearance of our user control here, and at the moment the only thing that we have is a simple border. So basically, if we had to use this user control, the only thing that we would see is just a blank box, which is our border here. So we're going to be changing that in a moment. Okay, let's go back to our class. I want to show you guys something. So we have a namespace called Windows.controls here. All right. So what I'm going to do is just show you guys another namespace. It's in the systems.windows.controls.primitives. All right. Now this namespace is provided by the WPF framework. It comes with the WPF framework, and it contains some interesting classes that we can inherit from. So there's a special class that we're going to inherit from today, and this class is called toggle button. All right. So it's actually a base class, so we can just inherit from it, and it has just a simple UI. So basically, we're going to be changing the control template of this class. So let's just navigate to the class. As you can see, it comes from this namespace, and it has something very interesting. It has a property, a Boolean property called is checked. So this actually just tells you the state of the button, either on or off. So we're going to be using that to determine the state of our toggle switch. And we also have other user events like is checked, unchecked. So we can use these user events to trigger other things. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go to our main menu here. And before we do that, let's just inherit actually from this class. So let's just inherit. So once you inherit from this class, you would want to build your solution so that Visual Studio can update everything that you've just done. All right, our solution has now been built. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to add in the user control that we just created. So just go ahead and type in local, and you see something pop up here called toggle. Now the reason why it's written local, it's just within the same namespace. So just add that, and boom, there you have it. So our user control has been added. But the only thing that we see here is a white box. Why? It's because our style is just simply a border, nothing more. So we're going to redefine this style so that it looks like a toggle switch. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to edit our template. Now, there are two ways of going about this. You can actually edit your template from within the resource dictionary, but the disadvantage of this is for you to see the changes here, you'd have to rebuild your solution. But what we're going to do right now is edit it from within the design code here. So just right click, just go to your toggle user control. I'm just going to resize that. So once you have it there, you can just right click hold on, just so right click on your control and then edit the template. So edit a copy of the template. So that's what we're going to do, and just give that name default. Okay, so basically this style is just the same as this one in our generic file. So we are just going to edit the control template. So let's go ahead. So I'm going to add in a new border. I'll just delete this one for the sake of understanding. Add in a new border. Okay, our border has been added in. There's something else that I'll need to add. I'm going to need to add the maximum height, maximum width, and minimum height. This is to prevent the toggle button from resizing and squishing, because we don't want our toggle button to resize. So our toggle button would be just a static defined dimension. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in a setter. So in our setter here, we are going to set a property, and this property is max height, and we set the value to 30. That's the, you have set it to 30. Okay, I'm just going to copy and paste that. Okay, so we're setting the max height as well as the max width and minimum height and minimum width. So our max width will be double the height, which is just 60, and the same applies for our minimums as well, maximums and minimums. All right, so you see, that's our user control. So basically this is the size, and you cannot change that size. All right, so we have a border here, and we are going to add in some color. So set the background to light gray. Okay, something light. Okay, and then change the corner radius to half the height. So our corner radius will be half the height, and we know our height is 30. We just added that here. So half the height will be 15, and that will create a nice perfect arc here. Okay, so once that is done, we're going to add in an ellipse within the border. Okay, so there we add in an ellipse. So our ellipse is here, and we're just going to add the fill to something like, I'm going to add in a blue, my favorite color, something like that. Okay, right. So you can see our ellipse has been stretched, and we don't want that to happen. We just want it to be perfect round. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the layout of our ellipse. So under the horizontal alignment, just change it to left so that it just moves to the left. So our ellipse is squished there. We can't see it right now because the width is actually 0. Now, don't change that yet. So what we're going to do is add in some margin. We're going to add in a margin in our ellipse, and just a margin of 2. Okay, so our ellipse has a margin of 2 around it. Now we can see our height is 26. So we're going to change our width to 26 so that our ellipse is perfectly round. Okay, good. So we have our margin 2. You can see some space around, so it's within the border. And I'm going to give this border a name. I'm just going to give it a name BK, and I'm giving my ellipse a name EP. Okay, all right. So we basically have our toggle switch, or user control. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to be listening to some events. For example, since we inherited this from the toggle button class, whenever you click this user control, it triggers an event and changes a property. The property that is changed is checked property, which is a Boolean property, and we saw that here. So every time you click that user control, this property is changed either to true or to false, depending on the current state. So we're going to be listening to that. So we're going to add in some triggers that once they listen to that, they can change the position of this ellipse. And for us to change the position, we're just going to change the alignment, basically. We will change the alignment from left to right. Now, because we added in our border, so we don't really need to know the specific movement. It's just going to do it automatically, left and right. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in. So under control template, let's add in our triggers. So control templates dot triggers. Okay, so I'm going to add in a trigger, and this trigger will target a property of is checked. Okay, and if the value of is checked is equals to true, we are going to do something about it. Okay, so what are we going to do once this is checked? We're going to move this to the right. So we're going to add in a setter. So our setter is going to target a property. It's going to target the ellipse. So I'm going to put the EP. So our setter is targeting this element here, ellipse EP. And what property is it targeting? It's targeting the alignment. And this alignment is the horizontal alignment. Okay. So once this is set to true, our horizontal alignment will be set to right. So once this is set to true, our horizontal alignment will be set to the right. Okay. And our background color will be set to green. So let's add in another setter. Property. I'm going to add in a background property. That's what we are changing. And our target will be our background, which is the border there. So let's add in BK. And the value of our background will be set to basically blue. Now, the kind of blue I want is not really this kind of blue. I want the green. Basically, let's set it to green. Something very light, close to this. Okay, so basically, that's our toggle switch. So whenever I click this event is set to true, and this is what happens. The element moves to the right, the ellipse, and the background changes to green. And if I unclick it again, it goes back to the default, which is actually what we defined here. So let's test our code now. All right, there we go. We see our user control and I click it, and that happens. You see, left, right, left, right. Now we can change the margin and the like just to make it look more. You see, the 2 pixels is not enough. So let's go ahead and just do that. Okay. And we might want to change the color of the blue itself as well. So I'm going to add in some more margin, and this margin will be set to 4. Now once I set our margin to 4, our height changes to 22. So we also need to change our width to 22 so that it's not squished. 22, and it's now round. And I want to change our color to something like, exciting green. Yeah, something like that. And maybe change my ellipse color as well to something like, let's see, what do we have? Kind of lighter blue. I know, something with high contrast. Yeah, you can change it to whatever color you want. Okay, let's just give it some yellow color just for demonstration sake. All right, let's run the project again. All right, and there you have it, on, off. Now we can actually trigger some events with this. We can actually trigger some events. Okay, so we have defined our control template. So basically this is a visual structure of our element. We've defined it here, and in our control template we've also set some triggers. So we are simply telling, this is how my toggle switch will look like, and this is how it's going to behave. Now we're defining this here. So our toggle switch is right here. Okay, and this is just the style that we set it to. Okay, now we can use the properties here. You see, is checked, so this is an event. So we can actually listen to the is checked event. So just go here and all right, I'm going to pop up a message box. And something like, well done. So that's, once it's checked, it's just going to tell us well done. So we can run our code. And bam, that's what we do. It will do that, and yeah, that will change. We go back, nothing happens. Once it's checked again, it will do that. So basically we are done with our toggle switch. You can adjust the shapes and the sizes, it's up to you. So once we are done with that, let's go back to our main. So we defined our style here, but now it's time for us to create a user control library so that we can now share it with people, or we can actually use it in other projects. So we define this style. Now this style is defined in the windows.resources. So what this means is, if we try to use this user template, this user control in another project, we don't have this defined there. It's only defined in this window. So we need to take this back to the generic file. Now the reason I just edited from here is because I wanted us to see the changes happening immediately. So I'll just go ahead and copy my style. Copy. In fact, I can just cut it out. You see, everything disappears. Let's go back to our generic, and I'm going to paste it here. Let's get rid of the old one. Paste it here, and I'm going to change this key. I'm just going to get rid of this key because I want every class that is of a toggle to inherit this style. I don't need this key, so I'll get rid of that key. And once I get rid of that key, I'll also get rid of this definition of where my style is located. So it will just pick it up directly from our resource dictionary. So let me just rebuild this. Okay, and there you have it. So our user control class, the constructor will tell us where to get our style from. It's defined here, and once we get it from there, we have a good looking toggle switch. All right, now it's time to export this into a dynamic library class so that we can use it in other projects. So what you're going to do, you need to delete this app.xaml. So once we delete this, if you do not delete this, it will cause some errors because we are now going to change the way our project is being built. Okay, you can also get rid of this main.window. You know, since we're in the final stages, we don't need extra stuff. Okay, so we have our toggle switch and we have our dictionary in this folder, and leave the rest the way it is. Now go to your project and then the properties. Now you're going to change this from a Windows application to a class library, and that's it. And just build your solution. Now I want to show you guys something. Just before I build, let's navigate to the folder where this class is. So if we go to our class and then go to the bin and debug, we are seeing an application, you see, .exe. All right, so we have changed that here. So once we build our class solution again, something will happen. Just wait for it. All right, it's no longer an exe, it's now a class, dynamic library. Okay, so now this is where your user controls are. So let's keep that. Let's close our solution. And let's create a new project. WPF, whatever you can name it, just for demonstration's sake. Okay, so imagine this is a different project and you have your class here already with you. So you have it in a folder. So just wait a second. Okay, so what we can do now is we have a toolbox here. So we can either add our references here, or we can just drag our class library and just drop it over here. And just wait a second. All right, just wait a second. So once you drag your class there, Visual Studio will basically search for classes that are inside that file, and if it finds a user control class, it will just add it to your list. So there we have our class is called Toggle, and boom, it appears. So that's the class that we just created there, and we already defined the style and everything, so it's in here. So we can just drag this and drop it there, and boom, there you have your user control in a different project. So you can add as many classes as you want and create a larger library. Yeah, so basically that's it for today. Thanks for watching.